Welcome everyone to another video of this series where we're exploring our interaction between an SQL server and our Allen Bradley PLC and what we can do. So far we have seen or explored how we can log into our SQL server, log some data, and also update that data all from our PLC. In this video, we are going to see how we can retrieve our data from our SQL server to our PLC so we can use it. So let's start. So as you see here, I am already logged in to the SQL with the SQL login. So the first thing I'm going to do, as you saw in my previous videos for either the insert or the update, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import my logic that I need to retrieve data from SQL server. So let's do that. So I'm going to import my routine here, SQL select, as we're going to be using the select query to retrieve our data, and we're going to see that in a couple seconds here how all that works. So like you see here, now I have the SQL select add-on instruction has been added, as well as the routine I need. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go here and add the routine to the execution. And next I need to add a couple instructions, so like we did for the insert and for the login and the update. I'm going to add also the same thing for the select. Just like that. And then next we have to add also here the reset, so that way we can automatically resume operation in case of a COM error. Okay, so those couple things that we need in there. Going to compile here, and then we are going to go to our routine. All right, so so this is the add-on instruction for the SQL select. As you saw before in the other videos, it has the same look and feel. The only exception here is we added this new member, which is a response to large output, and we're gonna discover here in a moment what does that mean and why that is, what's that for. And then also I have just a couple rungs in here just to capture, you know, a couple statuses once we go through this demonstration. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to untoggle this because I don't want to run it just yet because it's not configured. So the first thing we would like to do is go through the configuration of this add-on instruction. So similar to what we did before in the previous videos, in the SQL login or insert or update, we have this SQL select config, so that's will be our start point. So what we need to do here, if I expand it, so as you will see, we have exactly the same members as the insert, or sorry, the update, for example. So we have to specify the database, the SQL table, the column names, the column counts, and the where condition. Now, and the where condition in this case is optional, so you don't have to put it, but you can if you need to. So we're going to see how all that works. So if I go to my SQL server management, just to show you here, so this is my database name and this is my table that I'm using. So same database and table I was using for this since I started this video series. So let's specify the database, so logix db, and then the table, so that will be ei log, and then we need to specify the names of the columns, which I have, if we look here, just a reminder. So if we go to the design, for example, so these are the names of my columns. So I'm going to specify that in here. So timestamp label description value, and lastly status. In the previous video I wasn't using or adding the status, but I want to add it this time just to show you something at the end in there that could be useful. So next we are going to put the column counts, so that's 5, and then the where condition. So I'm going to put a where condition in my case here. So I'm just going to say time stamp greater than, for example, let's put 2020 dash 06 dash 25, and then I'm going to put 09, let's go 38 minutes and 20 seconds. Okay, so put it like that as a string, and that should be good. So I'll say OK. So that's about the parameters we have to set up for our select query to work. So I'm going to hit apply, make sure I still have my parameters, everything looks good. Alright, so that's good. So now what I'm going to do is to show you this is what's happening behind the scenes. I'm just going to put this to the side in here, and I'm going to also open up Wireshark at the same time. So I'm going to clear this window. Okay, so there we go. So let's trigger now this to see what's going on. So as we see here, immediately we got the first batch and the response, and then as you can see here is the query that we sent to the SQL server to resolve. Now in the response, let's show you a couple things in here, and then here is the next query. So we have 47 rows. So that's the rows that we brought back, And then the other thing I want to show you here is this number here. So that's the length of this whole packet. So this whole packet is 3,725 bytes. So that's one of the limitation of this SQL select is limited to 4096 byte. So as long as your packet is 4096 byte or less, then we will be able to retrieve those rows, and as long as we are less than 50 rows. So with that has been said, I mean, if we want to bring more rows, and why not, we can add another query, or we can just change the condition, the where condition, for example, so we can bring more rows and so forth. So there's lots of ways around that. But just keep in mind, right now we have this 3,725 and the number of rows is 47. Now if we look at the add-on instruction, so another new member that we have here is this SQL table. So this is where we're putting the result of your query. So this is where you do the configuration, and this is where we will get the results. So if we open this up, you will see that we have 5 columns, which were already specified, and then we have here is 47 rows that we detected, and then we also detected the number of bytes. That way, if you're doing some troubleshooting or trying to confirm something or whatever, then at least when you see this number matching what you have here, if you're using something like Wireshark or maybe another protocol sniffer software, then it just gives you a little bit more help in there. So those kind of information you get for your query, and then on the top of that we get, of course, the data. So if we open up this SQL columns, so this is an array of 50. That's why I was saying that we are limited in here to 50 columns and also 50 rows, as you will see here in a second. So if I expand this, then we have again for these ones here, like we said, 50 columns. But then if we expand the first column, we're going to see here we have the name, we have the type, and we have the rows. So that's how it is structured. So it's by columns, and then each columns is going to have the rows that we detected, the values of those rows, which we're going to see here in a moment. So if I just go here to this side, as you can see here, we have 50 rows. So those are the kind of the limitations that we put in there. But like I mentioned, there is other ways to go around that if we need to grab more data and so forth. So if I expand now these rows, we are going to see here the first row. So you have the data could be a bool, could be an integer, could be a real, could be a string, or a date and time. Now in this case of the first column, if we see here, this is timestamp and the type is 4. So because of that, that means the data is going to be in this date and time row right there. And here we go. Here is the data coming from our SQL server. In the same way, if we keep going here, we're going to find the data only in the date and time, because that's a date and time type. So here's the second row, and then here is the third row, and so forth. Now to confirm what we are seeing between our PLC and our SQL server, what we're going to do is we're going to do something. So if I go to column number 3, which corresponds to the value, like here, and look at row, there we go, so row number 0, or row number 1. So here is the first value that came in. So 16,906, and then in the same way here is the second value, and here is the third value. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to SQL and I'm going to run I don't want to do that, and I'm going to run a select query, the same query, and then see what are we going to get. So if I go here just like that, and just going to auto hide this, and then I'm going to say where timestamp is greater than 2020 06 25 09 38 20 seconds. I believe that's the query we just going to double check in here. Let's see in the condition. Yeah, so that's same. So there we go. So now I'm going to run this query, and here we go. So here is, just auto hide this so we can see it a little bit better. So here we go. We can see now the values right there. So 16,906, here is 16,906. If I put this a little bit higher so we can there we go. So here is the same value right there, and then 79,110, 79,110, and then 139,789, same. So here's all your same values, and as you can see here, here's your 47 rows, so the same rows we have here. Now furthermore, what I'm going to do, just to show you this live, I'm going to go here and just open the table, and I'm going to look for that value of 16,906. So if I look here, so it's going to be somewhere, it's right there. Okay, so I'm going to do is I'm going to change it here live, and then you will see it changing here as well in a few seconds. So I'm just going to say, let's put 10 for example. Okay, so I changed it here as you saw, and we're just now waiting on it to change in the PLC. It takes like a couple seconds to run the next batch and update all the values. So let's highlight this so we can see it, and there we go. So here is a change to 16,910. So that's how we confirming that our values are reading properly and everything is good. Now the other thing I want to show you here is if you remember in the beginning I was talking about adding this column as well. As in the previous videos I wasn't adding this column in the queries, but the reason now I add it, if we look here in the first value, you see I have it here, it says under string and it says it's null. So although this is a bool, but because in SQL you can have a value or it could be a null, while in the PLC a bool it's either 0 or 1, but for you to indicate to you that hey, there is no value in that field, then you can check this string. If this string is saying null, that means there is no value yet in this column. So that's just a way to tell you, so you don't use a 0, for example, because it's really not 0. It just there's no value. So that's how we are basically overcoming that challenge. Now if I come here and say this is true, like that, or actually I have to go to do it in the first value. That's not the first value, so this one right here. So if I go and say this is true, like that, then we're going to see that this bool is going to change to 1 and this null will disappear. So we're just going to give it a couple seconds here, and then we're going to see that's happening here in a couple seconds. So and there we go, like we said. So the null disappeared and now it's showing 1 because now we have a 1 in the table. So I just want to show you that as well in there. Okay, so that's basically how we are retrieving our data to the PLC from the table. So now I'm going to touch up on a couple things in the add-on instructions. So let's go back to our logic here, and actually I'm just going to leave it here with the Wireshark open so we can see what's going to happen. I'm going to refresh this screen. Okay, and what I'm going to do is to demonstrate this response. Now this response to large, what it just means is if your query is basically returning data more than 4096 byte that we mentioned, then this output is going to go high, and we won't be able to give you any data. All we're going to be able to do is just to show you the bytes of the last packet as well as the number of rows for that particular query. So to demonstrate that, I'm going to go here and I'm just going to get rid of this, say apply, and I will hit OK, and then we're going to see here what will happen. So as you see here in Wireshark, so here is it shows you that this is not the last buffer, this is not the last buffer, so there's still data that it needs to process, and in few seconds we will see that this output is going to go high, and we can capture it in this counter here, for example. And there we go. So like you saw here, the data was too large, so it's more than one packet, obviously more than 4096 bytes. So that's why we have now this output to indicate that. And then from there, you know, depending on your logic and what you want to do, you can use that bit for different purposes. So now the other thing I would like to demonstrate is what if we have, you know, maybe a typo, or maybe the database admin changed maybe a table name on us, or something like that. What will happen in that scenario? So I'm gonna go and put back that where condition and just refresh this here, get rid of this, and then also the SQL error, and then go back in here. We should start seeing the responses coming back like in here. So it's 47 again. There we go. So if we look at this token for the done, we have 47. So everything is back to normal now. But if we have, for example, like I mentioned, you know, maybe a typo or something has changed on us from the SQL side, for example, then we're going to detect that. So let's say, I put the wrong table name, so I just add an L in there. So as soon as I do that, we're going to start to see that this counter for SQL error is going to start to count and tell us that, hey, we have an error in your query. So let's look at that. So we can see that's right there already in Wireshark. So here it says this is invalid name for this table, and also we can see our SQL counter for the SQL error is going up. So that's how you can detect things like that. So if I go back and correct the error and put the correct table name, then everything will go back to normal automatically. So you will see here this will stop, and then we will start to see the response. There we go, coming without no errors, and this is already stopped. So, and we're back to normal with our query here. No problem. Here's the next one, just came in. And then similarly, if we have communication error, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to reset this counter, and I'm just going to unplug my cable. So I just unplugged my cable, and then we're going to start to see that this communication error counter is going to start to register. There we go. So already have 2 in there, and if we go to the login, we can see that we have an error in here, and the logic is trying to bring us back to normal. So if I plug back my cable, then immediately we'll see that we'll resume operation with no issues. As you can see here, here's the login request, and here's the first query already with no issues. And here is our rows count. So that's it for this video, folks. I hope you enjoyed the content, and in the next video I will show you how we can delete records from our SQL table directly from our PLC. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.